So the histamine in your food may be a problem. Maybe the gut bacteria is pushing you over the limit. Maybe you have environmental things, mold, allergens. Maybe you're not keeping your environment clean. Maybe it's too moist. The moisture's too high. The humidity's too high. And you're not having good, at least HEPA, VOC filters in your environment to keep things clean. These are all definite concerns of driving and, let's say, filling up your histamine bucket. So some people genetically have this bucket, right? Some people's bucket's bigger or smaller. And the bigger your bucket is, the more histamines from other sources that you can tolerate. The smaller it is, those histamines come in from the different sources I mentioned. And when that histamine overflows, that's where symptoms start. The brain fog, the fatigue, the skin, the rashes, the irritation, maybe the migraine headaches, maybe the sleep issues, right? Cognitive mood stuff. These can all be histamine vector. And so you got to look deep at everything and say, where is that histamine coming from? One is a histamine, because sometimes you could just have inflammation from different food allergens. We know gluten in certain studies can impact blood flow up the carotid arteries to the brain. And we've seen in some studies that you'll see decreased blood flow when you consume gluten. Sometimes it can be just that gut permeability, right? Those tight junctions open up. These undigested foods and bacteria, lipopolysaccharides, endotoxins, gluten peptides, KCO, morphin peptides get in that bloodstream, and that can sometimes create an inflammatory response that can create inflammation and create an immune stressor, and that could feel like histamine. There could even be some collateral histamine production from that. So you got to look at things holistically. You could have bugs, you could have some die-off from the bugs because of the biotoxins being produced by them, and your body's having to process them. It could be the fact that you just have really crummy digestion, you're not breaking down proteins and fats, and those proteins are really important for your detoxification system for N-acetylation, glucuronidation, making those glutathione building blocks so you can detoxify. It's possible. All those things are very possible. So I just want to urge you guys to look here a little bit holistically and think about histamine problems also being connected to female hormones, and female hormones being connected to stress. So the more stressed we are, especially if you're amenorrhea. If you have amenorrhea, you know your progesterone's low because you need to have a cycle to make progesterone. To have a cycle, you have this follicle grows, an egg comes out, then you start to make estradiol from that egg, and then from there you start to then surge LH, which then increases progesterone, and where estrogen peaks up and where progesterone rises, this is where you ovulate, and that starts the luteal phase. Follicular phase is the estrogen part, the luteal phase is the progesterone part. So you have to have an egg and ovulation release, and that's where your progesterone surges. If we don't have that complete cycle, because we're on birth control or because you are under such stress, calorie dieting, chronic stress, chronic inflammation, maybe you're over-exercising, maybe you have an eating disorder. All these things could put your body in a state of stress where you're no longer having a cycle. And guess what happens to that progesterone? It goes down super low. And not only does progesterone help with histamine, right? It also is a GABA chloride channel opener. It opens those GABA chloride channels, has an incredible relaxation effect, so it can help with sleep, calming down, and buffering stress, and helping that amygdala kind of come down and relax from those sympathetic, stressful states.